Good morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
All right, and welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. Got another guest today and another B&I guest, and we're kind of going to trend this last couple of weeks. Last week I had our outgoing president, Patty Seagrave, on the show with me, and today I have Beth Stone with Ledbetter Title, who is our incoming president, which will kick off in October, so it'll probably be next Thursday after this show that she is actually the president. So how are the nerves on that going?
Well, my first B&I meeting as president, I'll be on a cruise.
It's the cruises then, yeah.
With several other B&I members celebrating our 20-year anniversary of B&I in Cookeville. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, yeah. You got so you have
nervous
the next week is when it's going to really hit you. Yeah.
But I'm excited.
Unfortunately, that doesn't fit my schedule too well, and it was just other things we had going on. We had a big trip a couple of weeks ago because we had a wedding to go to, so that kind of became our vacation instead of doing the cruise. I would have loved to have done the cruise.
We'll report back on that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it'll all be good reports. But do you have kind of visions of what you're thinking of your presidency? I mean, we always kind of have an agenda. So is there anything of that you kind of want to share now? Or are you saving that to share with the chapter?
Well, leadership team or incoming leadership team met yesterday. And we talked about our goals a little bit. Patty has done an amazing job, which you alluded to in your show last week. So it is kind of hard to follow in her footsteps. But we, of course, want to continue to grow and continue to grow that thank you for closed business. And so we've got some goals in mind.
Right.
And, of course, we're always looking for new members because that's where the thank you for closed business and the referrals come from.
Right.
So we've got some ideas in mind. She set the bar high.
She did set the bar high, and I actually thought about that because I was saying, well, she did a much better job of president than I did. I left her with 22, and she came in and has grown that to like 35 or 36, I think we might be at right now. I said, and then I remembered there are awards in our region, and in our chapter, even though we weren't very large at that point, we actually got the award for best retention. So I got to get credit for keeping the members, but that just didn't grow it a lot.
We have several members in our chapter that have been there for 15 plus years.
Yeah, several of them, over a decade. So that's going great. So anyway, we're not here just to talk about B&I, but Beth kind of went, what do I talk about? Because she knows it all insurance. She's not confused about insurance. But I did have things I kind of wanted to hit her on, and we talked about it a little bit before the show, and I think we kind of go there because we've all heard about title insurance, and then we've also hear these radio commercials or maybe online talking about if you don't secure your title, someone can take out a loan in your name and you lose your house because they foreclose on the house, and that's not title insurance. So you can kind of address the difference between those two without getting us in trouble today.
Sure. So there are some services out there that claim to lock down your title. And in Tennessee, you cannot lock your title.
Okay.
From what I've read, you can't really do that in most states.
Uh-huh.
What they are offering is a monthly service to monitor your title, but they can only inform you of a problem with your title after it happens.
Uh-huh.
So that's where it gets tricky or confusing because they can't do anything about it once it's done. You really need to know in advance, and how are you going to be ahead of a scammer?
Right.
Is the question. You can't be. But the good news is that it's fraud. Yeah. You do not have to move out of your house. You do not have to pay back a mortgage that was taken out fraudulently. So there's the good news. The other side of that is that you will probably have to hire an attorney to help you wade through it.
Uh-huh.
But you're not out your house. You're not out a mortgage someone took out in your name. So, as amazing as it might sound, I'm not sure they're really providing a service.
Much of a service.
Much of a service.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing that always got me was, it's why would it be my fault that the bank gave a loan to somebody else that's not me?
No, it wouldn't.
So
that's
it's like
exactly right. They do say that elderly are often targeted in this because if somebody showed up at their house and told them they had to move out, they might believe it. They also say that if you don't have a mortgage on your house, if you own it free and clear, you might possibly be a target. But that it's just not, there's not this widespread panic about it that some companies want us to believe.
Right. But you do offer title insurance, correct?
That's correct.
So explain that a little bit to us.
Title insurance provides you protection and actually insurance if a title problem were to come up on your property after you've bought it. A title search has to be done, so somebody goes back through the records and makes sure that the title has exchanged hands appropriately over time. Title insurance protects you if something were to pop up, someone found something different, an heir pops up out of nowhere and says, oh, this was my grandparents' land and I never got my share, or I never signed, or I never...
Now, that comes kind of more into play once you've actually closed on the property, right? Because if it comes up in the title search, something like that, then you're not going to be able, if there wasn't title insurance, you won't be able to transfer the property.
That's right. And what we do is try to remedy those things when they come up in the title search. We play detective a lot. We look for deceased people. We look for heirs. We look for old judgments that haven't been released. Can we get them released? We're looking for the things to clean it up.
Right.
And then we can offer the title insurance so you're protected from everything that happened before you purchased the property.
I didn't let you prep for this, or what was your most unusual case on something like that?
Well, we've seen a little bit of everything. An unusual case that really doesn't have anything to do with title insurance, but something funny that happened is we had somebody doing a walkthrough on a property the day before closing to make sure everything was in order, and they found a headstone in the side yard.
Oh, in the yard, okay.
Of this commercial building.
Oh, okay.
I mean...
Yeah.
And we knew that no one was buried there.
Yeah.
And so we had to find where these people were actually buried.
So it was just a commemorative plaque.
It was either one that got messed up, one that that never made it to the cemetery. There used to be a monument company there or something? Something like that.
Yeah.
Something crazy. So that was an unusual case of having to track that down. But that's the kind of detective work that sometimes we have to do.
That's interesting.
Found the headstone with the exact same people and the exact same dates of birth and death in a cemetery in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So, but we have to do that sometimes.
Right.
To make sure it's clear. That's a red flag.
Right.
No, we've definitely had to hunt down brothers and sisters and grandparents and to make sure that everybody is aware or has signed, or when somebody dies without a will, do we have all the heirs? That sort of thing.
I guess sometimes in those cases there's maybe the seller would be responsible, but possibly paying that heir, to release their claim, or
that we haven't really had that happen, but yes, that's what it would come down to. And it is the seller's responsibility. That's why you hope they have owner's title insurance,
right?
But yeah, it's something you buy at closing, and it's a one-time fee, and it's good as long as you own the property. So that's how it's different than other types of insurance. You pay the premium one time, and it's good as long as you own the property.
One of the things, and you listened to the show I talked about with Patty, we talk about the B&I Mafia and how many people were involved in Brandon's house purchase and closing. And you have kind of a cute story on that happened at the closing.
Well, I keep my B&I business cards on my conference room table. So if something were to come up during closing, hey, I need to get this roof problem taken care of, or hey, I need to get, you never want anybody to be looking for insurance at the table, but sometimes that happens. Just those sorts of things. But yes, the seller or the seller's realtor,
I think it was the seller's realtor when you told the story before,
wanted a business card for Brandon's Culligan water. And
Brandon
didn't have any on it, but I had them. So, yeah, that's been really helpful. And I just have them snap a picture of the business card and hope it pans out.
We do so much electronic now. I know you're kind of new to our B&I chapter, but you might have been involved with it before. We used to have a little folder that held the business cards, and it was kind of one of those things that, it was kind of a challenge to have those with you every week. In fact, sometimes chapters would do contests, and you got a point if you had your card folder with you.
Well, I did end up buying one.
Yeah.
I had them rubber band.
Yeah.
I just had them in a stack with a rubber band around
right.
them. And I was like, I could probably make this look a little more presentable. So I bought a folder.
Yeah.
And it's been helpful. And I just put them in there in alphabetical order, like we have our list, and it's easy.
Yeah, it used to be kind of one of those, I don't know, kind of judgmental things or whatever. If you're B&I and you didn't have somebody's card when you needed to pass it, it's always funny when the person doesn't have their own card.
But I will give him credit. When he stood up to leave, he was like, oh, they're in my jacket pocket. So he did have them, but it worked out. Hopefully that turned out to be thank you for closed business.
Log the referral. That's right. We do the competition. In fact, I had to put a bunch of stuff in because we're coming up on our last meeting of the year. Our year starts October 1st, so anything that happens, basically anything happens after this show airs or before, it will be counted on Beth's term. Not that we're trying to cheat her, but we also want to make sure we got everything buttoned up to end out the year.
And it helps us set our goals for next year. Truly, we talked about that yesterday. We don't know exactly where we're at until everybody does that. Yeah. So,
and it raises the bar a little higher if everybody gets everything in.
It does, but that's okay.
But if people forget, you won't complain about the sandbags either.
That's right. Yeah. Next year when it rolls around,
we'll
complain about everybody putting it in at the last
Right. So a lot of people, we've been doing a lot of Zoom trainings and stuff, and I'm getting to repeat this year on the visitor host team, but got a whole new crew of everybody else.
I think it's a whole new crew, and we needed a veteran leader.
Yeah. Didn't know I had that title there, but
you're welcome.
So, but we'll get going on that, and we are coming up fairly close to the break here. We do have to pause for commercials, so we'll just take a little bit of a breather here, and then when we come back with Beth Stone.
Get a great deal on select Kubota equipment, the #1 rated tractor brand for durability and owner experience in the U.S. The versatile lineup is built to help you make the most of your land. Right now at participating dealers, get a Kubota compact tractor for 0 down, 0% APR for 84 months, plus save up to $800 on qualifying implements. Now through September 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com/disclaimers for full disclaimer.
See Sam, Tim, or Alan Brown at Hicks Brothers Tractor Service on South Jefferson Avenue in Cookeville. We're your locally owned Kubota dealer.
Is slow internet driving you batty? This Halloween season, break free from the curse of sluggish connections. With Tri-Lite Fiber Internet, you can say goodbye to haunting buffering screens and hello to a screaming fast internet experience. With dedicated connections and speeds up to 10 gig, you can connect all your devices and stream your favorite shows without any scary interruptions. Don't let slow internet haunt you any longer. Call 833-847-0824 or visit trilite.net and leave the slow speeds in the dark.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
Welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking with my guest, Beth Stone with Ledbetter Title. I want to hit it before I forget, because sometimes we're running out of time. What's the best way for folks to find you, to use your services?
We have a website. That's ledbettertitleco.com. And email is beth@ledbettertitleco.com. And we're at 24 North Jefferson. A lot of people just call us, though. And
right.
That's fine, too. So that's 931-526-6131. If you have a closing coming up, looking for a title company, need a title search, we can help.
Now, I know in B&I, a lot of times, even though we have real estate agents, our mortgage people in our group, I know you ask, for introductions to anybody in that field, too, because Always. They can help refer you. And I know You always kind of, it's kind of funny because we watch it, because you'll kind of cringe from the real estate agents of like, because you also love those for sale by owner people because they have to close a title.
That's right. We also handle that. So if you choose not to use a realtor, and sometimes that's just grandmother selling to grandson or in the family, so there's no real reason to use a realtor. We can also help with that. So if you need a contract, if your lender's requiring a contract, or if you've just sold your home for sale by owner, we can help you with the contract and then just see you through the process.
All right. So what questions do you hear from people that I might be able to answer?
Well, I do often hear, and because I'm a small business owner, about health insurance.
Right.
Of course, I own my own business. My husband owns his own business, so we have to provide our own health insurance.
Right.
I know that open enrollment is coming up again. What can you tell people about that process?
Okay. So a lot of times, and it kind of confuses people because they'll call and say, "Hey, I just need a quote." And it's like, okay, I'm not the lizard. It's not a 15-minute process. I need a little bit, more information than just you need insurance. I'm going to need to know your date of birth, your family size, and a lot of times people think, well, I just need insurance. My husband doesn't need insurance. He has insurance through his employer. I just need it for me. I still have to go with the household income, and even if you're not thinking about doing what the ACA, and we use ACA. Marketplace, Affordable Care Act, some people, Obamacare, that's the phrase is still used. Even if you think you're not going that route, it helps us to know your household income. What I've run into, especially when it was new, and I don't want that, and it's like, okay, do you want to pay $800 for your insurance, or do you want to pay $30?
Big difference there.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I think people have kind of figured out that it's the insurance. They thought, it's a government program that runs it, but the insurance isn't government insurance. If they, and I can use the names here because we only have two carriers. We have Blue Cross of Tennessee, which the longest, that was the only marketplace plan we had. Correct. And then we had another company called Bright Health that came in. Terrible network, but they messed up the tax credit. Because they tried to undercut Blue Cross on the premiums, and then they left the state last year.
Oh, wow.
So we have another company called Ledbetter. Again, not as good as network as Blue Cross because they're established. They're a little bit sounder company than Bright Health was, so they do have some offerings. And again, they are beating Blue Cross on the price. But you have those two carriers. They're private insurance companies. They are not government owned. The government controls the insurance everywhere, but they're not the one providing it. Medicare is provided by the government. That is something that's provided, but what we call the Obamacare plans or the exchange plans, that was the other word I was thinking of besides ACA. They all mean the same thing. Those plans, they're private insurance plans, but based on income, you can get they call it the advanced premium tax credit, which helps you pay for that. That's based on income. So if I ask somebody for their income, the other thing is I want to know is we have other plans out there that do cost less than the marketplace plans, but because they aren't part of that system, you do have to medically qualify for them. People, well, I thought they did away with it. Yes, they did away with that for group plans or plans that are marketed that when we had the tax penalty exempted you from the tax penalty. These other plans are basically what they call short-term plans. And right now, we can offer those plans with 2 renewals on them, so you can lock in that plan for 3 years. Okay. And actually, in one company, does have the option you can lock in your rate for 3 years. Oh, nice. So you're going to pay a little higher that first year versus, hey, I don't know what it'll be next year. But those, like I said, those short-term plans, they're underwritten. You have to pass the health underwriting.
So if you're healthy,
they're a great option if you're not going to get the tax credit. Mm-hmm. The other thing was we can't sell it for more than a 1-year term, but they did where we kind of cobbled them. That if you signed up for that, it didn't matter if something happened to in your health in that year, you could still renew it for the 2 more years. Okay, nice. So that was a benefit with those plans. If you just get, say, I just want 12 months because I'm probably going to change employers and then I'll have group plan again. and 6 months into that plan you get cancer, it's going to cover you for that 6 months, but at the end of that term, that insurance is gone. You have to have something else in place. And depending on when you bought that insurance, you might have been outside of the open enrollment cycle, because you can get those plans at any time. So if you say you bought a plan in March, it would go to March, but it was January when you found out you were sick and couldn't renew in March, and you've missed the open enrollment, because we're coming into that. The Medicare is first. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, all of that being said, this is why you need to call a professional for the help.
Right. And it
is a lot to remember, a lot to understand, but if you come to your professional with your details, your family.
Yeah. And we try to make it very simple for you. One of the things we've started now is there's a program out there called Jot Form, and we can send you a link. It has our client intake questionnaire on it. You can securely fill that out, put all your information in it.
And then you take that and run with
I take it and I can print it out as a PDF, and I've got all that data that I can go ahead and put in, run quotes for you, because you might call me right at the end of the day, or we don't have time to take down all your information, and maybe you don't have time for me to look it up then, but you're wanting help. You can send us that information, still schedule an appointment to come in, and we'll go over it. But we do a lot of it by phone. I love to do things by Zoom, especially with the Medicare. Unfortunately, those are the ones that don't want to do it by Zoom. They still want the in-person.
Or fill out something online.
Right. Yeah, there's a few of them.
We run into that too. We run into that too.
The other problem I run into was I moved to Cookeville, a little over 3 years ago, and I had an office. It's always funny. I say my office was in Rockwood, but the mailing address was Harriman because of the way the mail routes ran. But people in that area will still do a Google search, and they'll find me, and they think that's where I am, and they want, can I come into the office? And it's like, okay, well, you're calling from Harriman. You realize I'm in Cookeville now. And sometimes I lose a few over that because I just don't have the time to go sit down and meet with them, and they don't want to come here. And they won't do the Zoom, and it's like I can do stuff over the phone, and some people will elect to do that, but it really helps when I can see them. Because sometimes I'll say something to somebody, and I'll get that deer in the headlights look and say, okay, I didn't explain that very well. I need to go back.
Sure.
And
sometimes people are too maybe embarrassed to
ask
a question.
They won't ask the question, or they say, does that sound good? Oh, yeah. And it's like, I always say, I talk about this every day.
We say the same thing at our office. We know it inside and out and front and back. And sometimes when we explain it to people or just say, hey, I need you to sign this, we forget that it's not something they do every day.
Right.
And that it could be some of the biggest decisions you make.
Right. And then the other is I talk about it every day, and I'm looking at the stuff on my computer screen that I'm talking about. They can't see it. And that's why I love doing the Zoom. I can share my screen. I can take the mouse and point it and say, this is what I'm talking about. See this plan here. The copays are this, or the deductibles this, and this is what it is on this plan. And I can do that side by side and say, okay, hey, this one doesn't have a great network, but hey, if you need to go to the urgent care, it's going to cost you half as much. Your max out of pocket's going to be $1,000 less. If you hardly ever go to the doctor, why do you want to pay $150 more a month to know the doctor's going to take the plan when you go there? You can just pay him cash.
Pay him cash.
Do the math.
But we've learned over the years that sort of thing, having to get our insurance the way we do. We've learned some of those tricks.
And I think a lot of it too. I mean, and that's part of the reason we got into some of the insurance issue we had with people didn't have insurance. Insurance wasn't necessarily affordable. It just seemed like it was too expensive, and they didn't have to have it. It wasn't mandated like their car insurance.
Sure.
And so people just didn't get it. And it was like they could have afforded it, but
they weren't going to people for explanations either.
Right.
Yeah. So
I ran into
professional.
Yeah, I ran into I say a lot when I first started in this business back in 2014 in the health insurance marketplace in Medicare. I found a lot of people didn't have insurance because it wasn't available, it wasn't affordable. It was they didn't pay their bills. Because I would sign people up on a plan that maybe cost them $30 a month, and 3 months later they stopped making payments, and so it canceled on them. And I'm like, I got you pretty good insurance, but
we need to set that up on auto draft.
Yes. Well, even then, when it auto drafts, the money's not there.
This is true.
So, and that's what would happen. And it's like, but don't let them skip that iced latte.
Yeah.
I won't use any brand names there, but
right, that's right.
So believe it or not, we're actually getting close to the end here. And I always say, as people come on, it's like, well, what do we talk about? It's like, well, we'll just talk because we'll run out of time before we know it.
Quick.
And so before we get to that stage, is there anything else that you wanted to add or ask before we run out of time?
I don't think so. I think that if you're interested in B&I, of course, let Matt or I know. That's something that's near and dear to us. But also, if you're looking to buy or sell a house, or you need insurance, health insurance, life insurance.
Well, I'll let you get another plug in. You're also doing some fundraising for Prescott South.
That's right. Prescott South softball is kind of revamping their program. We have a new coach, and she's looking to do some fun things. So if you're interested in supporting that and having a sign in front of over 800 parents every day through Carline, you can also let me know about that.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
I remembered that because something I need to talk to you about. I said, well, I'll just bring it up here too. But as always, we mentioned, and Beth had mentioned, I think about, she listened to other program, is we do have past programs now coming up they're actually on YouTube, but if you go to the website, insurancematchmaking.com, that's my show website, and there's a spot on there where you can submit questions for the show. So if you've got some ideas there, or you've been listening and say, okay, yes, I'd like to have you evaluate my prescription drug plan for the Medicare enrollment season, because that's the one thing, it's got to be done from October 15th to December 7th if you want a different drug plan on January 1st. Unless you qualify for other special enrollment options, if you don't change your plan for January 1st, you're going to have that plan for another year. And some of them are raising their rates. Some of them are changing their copays. Some of the plans have lowered their rates. So,
wow, that's not something you hear every day.
So you can ask for that link for that JOT form to send in a list of your prescriptions. We can do a free evaluation and see if it makes sense for you to change your plans. It's no obligation. We don't charge anything for our services, but we can advise you that, hey, maybe you need to change your plan. So if you signed up several years ago, don't remember who the agent was that signed you up, or you just called the company because they had a cheap rate, something like that, it makes sense to reevaluate that drug coverage every year. Open enrollment, October 1st, we can actually start comparing those plans. We just can't enroll you until October 15th. And then, like I said, that goes to December 7th. And then the ACA marketplace starts on November 1st. Anything from November 1st to December 15th will start you on January 1st. And if you miss that December 15th date, we can still get you in an open enrollment, but your plan won't go into effect until February 1st. So we'll talk about that more coming up, but just wanted to make sure that you had all those details. Next week, you'll hear from me next week, but I think it's going to be one of the earlier shows that not a repeat. I don't think we've had to go to replays yet, but I'm not going to be able to do a recording next week, so we will have, I think, might be one of my monologues. I'm sorry. But I did record a couple shows, went over a lot of details, things that's just so I'd have that in reserve in case I couldn't make it to the show, and I'm not going to be able to record next week due to family issues. But you can hear from us next week, and look forward to talking to you again on Insurance Matchmaking.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.